Hello everyone and welcome back to Coin Bureau Clips. You know the man to my right
What's up, guys? How you doing? Best time to end such a crypto crazy week than a bit of Q&A, right?
Yeah. It's been absolutely crazy. So you know the drill. Questions that have been sent to us via Instagram. Nick and I are going to go through a few of them now. But before we start, I think the burning question, the one that really has to be asked, is Nick, what's going on with this shirt?
I don't know, man. I thought that the Friday was formal, because last week you were wearing the shirt and I was wearing the casual. I was like, okay, we got to sync this up because me and Jessica did it well last week because we both were wearing white, which didn't help with the twin rumors too much. Because we coordinate our dress in the mornings. But yeah, I thought it's formal shirts on Fridays. What's going on, man?
This is formal.
Well, it's Dubai formal, right?
Dubai formal.
It's
okay.
Floral shirt.
It's interesting. It's different. That's for sure.
It's different.
Okay. All right. Let's start with the less pressing questions then. Okay. An interesting one to start with from Glasses Jack, and they ask: by 2030, what do you think will be the top 5 cryptos besides Bitcoin and stablecoins?
Oh, yeah.
So 2030.
2030. That's 7 years.
Yeah.
Time. That's a long time. I think crypto years are kind of like dog years, In 7 years' time, that's like 50 years in normal person time. So trying to make predictions around 7 years in the future about the state of the market cap rankings is quite difficult. What I think would be helpful to potentially answer this question is to take a look at what the market cap looked like back in 2016, 7 years ago, right? Because it could be slightly instructive in terms of how things can change and how much they can change in that time.
Yeah.
So we decided to take a look at the historical snapshot for CMC in November 2016. And it was Bitcoin, number one, Ethereum, XRP, so not much change there, then Litecoin, and then Monero.
Wow. Okay.
So that's how it looked then. Now, where does it look now? We got Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether, BNB, and XRP. So what's interesting is that, for one, Tether's now up there in the top 5. And where was it 7 years ago? It was like 20 or something. Okay, admittedly, Tether only launched about in 2014, so it was only 2 years later.
29th back in...
29th, okay, yeah. So that shows that, for instance, if we're going to be projecting 7 years in the future, a cryptocurrency potentially within the top 30 will potentially be the top there. Also, BNB is there now. In 2016, BNB didn't exist. Yeah. So this could also mean that potentially in 7 years' time, there is a cryptocurrency that doesn't even exist yet, or should be launched in the next bull run that doesn't exist right now. So it'd be hard to necessarily state. Monero, obviously, and Litecoin have fallen down. Monero went from 5 down all the way to something like 20s or something now. So, so that's interesting. So that's important and use that as a framework to be able to try and project out this far and see how things can change. So I think, the question was more directly, okay, so Bitcoin, obviously, he said besides Bitcoin, but it's pretty certain Bitcoin is going to be there, right?
Bitcoin number 1.
Bitcoin number 1. Ethereum?
Number 2.
Number 2 will be number 2, and do you think so you don't think it's going to flip in the 7 years?
No.
No flipping in?
No, I've talked about the possibility of a flipping before, but I've kind of cooled on the idea recently. I think Bitcoin's going to be pretty unassailable for the foreseeable future. Not ruling it out one day, but 7 years?
7 years? A lot? Okay.
No.
Fair. I'd slant towards potential flipping in before then, but it's that's not the question. Let's just say Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP. Do you think now first let's start on Tether. Do you think Tether?
This chap's question is excluding stablecoins. Excluding stablecoins. For the record, I do think USDT will probably still be up there, but who knows?
Okay, sorry. So BNB.
BNB.
Do you think BNB will be there in 5 years?
Well, I guess a lot of that depends on Binance, which is we're obviously going to be talking about. I think there's going to be at least a couple of questions on Binance coming up. Will BNB still be there? I kind of feel, well, it doesn't depend so much on Binance as an exchange. I think it depends more on the BNB ecosystem.
BNB ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one. I think that the question is also, and I think we have a video that's coming out on this Binance stuff pretty soon. And the fact that potentially CZ is stepping down, but he's also now he wants to go and get very much involved in DeFi, very much involved in crypto and the ecosystem. Yeah. And it goes without saying that he's probably going to want to focus on the ecosystem that he helped develop or launch, which was BNB, right? So, the question then is, I think that BNB could potentially has longer term potential, but I think in 7 years, I don't think it's going to be there in 7 years. In the top 5 at least, potentially the top 10. I think it will still be in.
I should point out that in the last 24 hours, CZ has changed his Twitter name from CZ Binance to CZ BNB.
So exactly there, right? So it's pretty obvious that CZ is going to try and be very much involved in the ecosystem. And as such a legend as he is, that will help drive it forward for sure. But whether it will be in the top 5, I don't necessarily think so. Top 10, yes, not top 5.
Okay. So XRP, our old friend.
And you're the one that can take the fire from the XRP army.
I mean, look, okay, fine.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, look, XRP is, it's impressive that it's still there after all these years. Like that is, to stick around in the face of so much competition. Ripple does seem to be expanding its operations.
Yeah.
And I think XRP does stand a good chance of still being up there. The thing, I think we've talked about this before, though. I think the thing that could be a big part of that is whether or not Ripple goes public. Which it wants to do,
which I think is likely. Like, why would they not?
Yeah.
And they're also very close to settlement with the SEC.
Yeah.
And once that happens, they're not going to have to worry about any more of the FUD or uncertainty that could come from the SEC, which a lot of other projects still have questions marks around, even Ethereum per se, right?
Yeah.
Because the SEC hasn't explicitly stated that it's a commodity. So, yeah, I mean, I think that XRP, it's got the staying power. I think that, if they continue minting these new partnerships and the Ripple goes public and, the community remains strong and steadfast and the XRP ledger itself becomes more utilized and utility demand for XRP and settlement increases, it could potentially still be there in 5 years,
I guess the question is, in large part, because a lot of the XRP army and any other crypto community by extent. I mean, what motivates them, as I'm sure a lot of them are very interested in Ripple and XRP's use cases, etc. But a lot of what motivates crypto communities is price.
Yeah.
So the question, I think XRP's continued sort of high market cap, does depend. Will its price continue to accumulate? Will it make all these XRP bag holders, mega wealthy in the future? And as I think we pointed out before, I mean, XRP has a maximum supply of 100 billion.
Yeah.
It's pretty massive. So will we see that sort of price accumulation for XRP in the future to keep it, to keep its market cap high? I'm not sure. But staying power alone, plus it doesn't have an awful lot of competition. I mean, I guess its nearest competitor is Stellar, which doesn't seem to be doing a huge amount recently. So I think XRP is a definite candidate.
Cool. Still
for top 5.
So then now the question is, which ones that aren't in the top 5 now could be there? Remember, taking back to our framework, the fact that, for instance, Tether was in the top 30 in 2016. So which of the coins right now?
Well, I guess the obvious one to talk about is Solana, because that's obviously seen a lot of action recently, and it seems to have it seems to be the alternative layer 1 play at the moment, growing ecosystem. So I think that could definitely be a contender.
And someone on our team just recently picked up some Sol, right?
They did.
Who was that person?
Who could that be?
Who could that be?
So look, I mean, Solana's been through it a lot, but it's sort of ridden out this FTX collapse. So I think that could be
quite impressive what Solana's done, what the ecosystem's been able to do, and just even the past 3 to 4 months, shaking all those ghosts of SBF, FTX past. So I think most likely, I think Solana's got strong potential to be in the top 5 by 2030.
Yeah.
And then
Gosh, there's so many others. Could we maybe say Dogecoin? Doge will still be popular.
No, unfortunately.
Unless it's
maybe
been
Bonk
replaced.
is going to be replaced by the Bonk.
Bonk.
No, I think I would think it's like if the past is any sort of guidance of the future, which it very rarely is, but let's just try. Then that could mean that there could be a coin launched in the next, or a token launched in the next bull market that it doesn't exist. That could be in the top 5.
Yeah.
Some really strong narrative, something that will, potentially AI, potentially real world asset. I think as a narratives, the strong narratives, real world assets potentially.
Yeah.
You're very bullish on GameFi. I think an RWA play potentially in the next in the next 7 years potentially, given that it's really trying to tokenize everything that's happening, in traditional finance and traditional markets. But so yeah, we'll say that's how I think it could look.
Okay.
In 7 years, so to be interesting.
Yeah, a few options, and something that we.
And our crystal ball, the Coin Bureau crystal ball.
Coin Bureau crystal ball. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, folks, but I have to let you know about the Coin Bureau deals page. My team and I have been able to pull together some of the best promos and discounts in the whole crypto space. We're talking trading fee discounts of over 50%, thousands of dollars in bonus airdrops, amazing deals at top exchanges, reduced prices on hardware wallets, and much, much more besides. So just go to coinbureau.com/deals, also linked to below, and find the promo suited to you. Enjoy the rest of the video.
Next question. Now, this is obviously a Binance-related question, no doubt. It's from Sam Lal DG, and he asks, how much could $4 billion actually hurt Binance? Because that's a pretty penny, right?
Yeah. Well, so it's a hefty fine. And obviously a record-breaking fine at that, the largest ever.
Largest ever,
yeah. So, I mean, this is something I don't think Binance can necessarily just sort of shrug off as though it were nothing. But I mean, they were moving a lot of almost that amount around in USDT around that time. Now, I don't think they would actually pay the fine in USDT, but it seems to suggest that they do have that amount liquid. So, I mean, I think it can certainly be paid, and Binance will continue to operate. I don't think this is going to break them, because, I mean, this will have been part of negotiation, won't it? So I guess perhaps it means that it might sort of slow Binance's growth over the next few years as they sort of, as they deal with the impact from that fine. I think probably more important, though, is the fact that Binance is going to be very closely monitored by US authorities over the next 5 years. I think it is. That, I think, is probably going to have more of an effect on Binance's growth in the sort of medium to long term. That level of oversight. I think the fine is probably not their chief concern.
Yeah, totally agree. In terms of the liquidity to pay the fine, I saw some interesting analysis that backed out available cash or crypto reserves for Binance Corporate by utilizing their proof of reserves audits. So potentially about $6.3 billion of liquid crypto in corporate treasury. Okay, it's just backing it out from the proof of reserves. You have to think about the liability side as well, but Richard Ting did comment on it, so he's kind of like alluding to it. So 6.35 billion in crypto liquidity, of which about 3.9 billion is stable coin liquidity. So they'll have the amounts to be able to pay the fine. And remember, the fine can be paid. It's paid in installments. It's not all up front. There's that plan they can adhere to. Obviously, I mean, $4 billion can go a long way in helping your exchange grow, introducing new products and services, marketing, obviously, to try and onboard new users. And Binance is facing a lot of challenges from a lot of other exchanges in the sense of market share. They just lost futures market share to be the CME now is more futures volume than Binance. But I do agree with you on the point of the increased scrutiny and surveillance. Like, they literally got to have an SEC guy sitting within their operations, monitoring everything that goes on. Now, that's obviously a good thing in the sense, a good thing from the industry perspective, because it means that there will be extreme oversight in making sure that everything is adhered to. But there's the question of Binance built its massive market share and dominance based on freewheeling and like move fast, break things, startup culture. It got it there, right? And been able to skirt, a few laws here or there to be able, for the greater good, to grow the market, to grow its market share, and to become the largest exchange. With that amount of scrutiny on it right now, which some of its competitors don't have to have right now, especially the offshore ones, can that have an impact on its potential growth opportunities? And not just about the fact whether they're necessarily worried about them doing anything wrong, but it's like if you've got a regulator embedded within your books and you're going to have to report it all the time, it's like naturally a cost of doing business. So I think it's going to be tough.
I think what's worth considering as well, though, is that, we talk about Binance losing market share to its competitors and, other competitors not having this same amount of oversight. But I'd have to say, like, any exchange that's looking to eat up part of Binance's market share would be really stupid to, I guess, make some of the mistakes that Binance has made in the past. I think if there are exchanges out there thinking, well, we can just sort of eat this up and, cut some corners and stuff like that. Like, I think what this Binance case proves is that you get on the wrong side of US authorities, they will get you. No matter where you are, no matter how rich you are, they come for you in the end.
And especially given that the estimates are they made between 1.3 to 1.5 billion in 3 or 4 years of service in US clients.
1.6 billion, I think. Yeah.
So, the question is then if the fine is that much, it's kind of like, similarly, all the examples, if the crime, I don't think the time, it's like, doesn't make sense.
Plus, as well, what our research through, for the Binance video that we've put out, what that threw up is that this compliance, having these US authorities basically with oversight, they're going to be going back through previous transactions. So anyone who's been doing naughty stuff and the using
blockchain
Binance
is immutable.
to do it,
and the blockchain never lies and it's immutable. So it doesn't matter when it was done.
I'm sure no Coin Bureau viewers are amongst those people, but I think we could find some interesting stuff come out of all of that. So bad guys beware. Okay, next question is from Artie8986. When do you make the next Monero update video? Your thoughts on Monero's future? Nick, you're a big fan of Monero.
Yeah. It's funny. It was actually when I first started buying crypto. It was after Ethereum. It was the second altcoin I ever bought, and I was super bullish on Monero's technology. I thought that it was completely anonymous, peer-to-peer digital cash that Bitcoin was always supposed to do, because people always perceived Bitcoin to be, at those days, they thought Bitcoin was, anonymous, peer-to-peer, whereas Monero really did have all the features that Bitcoin was supposed to have. And I'm still bullish on it in terms of like the technology. It's mind-blowing technology, right? From a cryptography perspective, and the fact that they haven't been able to break it, and the fact that everything from, the ring signatures to ring confidential transactions and, stealth addresses, all this kind of stuff. And it's just, and that since the upgrade since then as well, right? Like, for instance, the random X mining algorithm, which is implemented 2 years ago, which would allow for more decentralized network because it allowed for CPU mining. So, didn't require a GPU to mine it anymore. Or bulletproofs, which made transactions a lot lighter and therefore much easier, cheaper, and faster to send. So it was cheaper to send than Bitcoin. It was more decentralized, and it was, fully anonymous. So this is the real peer-to-peer digital cash. So I was very bullish on it, and I love Monero's technology, and I love what Monero stands for. However, if you're going to ask me, price potential or potential for the short to medium term as for adoption of the project itself or the cryptocurrency, I'm not as bullish. In fact, I'm a bit bearish, I think, because it's pretty much well known that privacy-enhancing coins are public enemy number one for nearly every government agency, every three-letter agency. All the blockchain auditing firms are trying to track and trying to identify any sort of transactions going through. Obviously, they haven't been able to, but you never know. But the point, the biggest challenge right now is obviously liquidity that's provided by exchanges, right? And Monero is right now listed on Kraken, Binance, OKX, and a few others, right?
Is it still listed on Binance? I thought Binance had been forced to delist.
No, it's listed there. So Binance, I think that if Binance has now listed it, and now you're going to have a guy from one of these agencies inside there, the moment they see Monero, oh, you got Monero, great.
Some guy from the Department of Justice's first day. It's like, I think we need to talk about Monero.
Yeah, Monero. Or, Kraken had to remove it from their UK, for UK users about a few months ago. So the problem is, as governments are going to make it a lot harder for exchanges to operate and offer privacy, not just Monero, but privacy-enhancing coins in general on their order books, which will limit liquidity, which will limit potential adoption. So it's only a matter of time that more exchanges will have to be delisting it, because it's like, what are you going to do? They want to be able to track it. They know they can track Bitcoin. Blockchain auditing firms can pretty much make a pretty strong picture of what's going on in Bitcoin, Ethereum, all transparent blockchains. So there's that question. Obviously, there's potential there's atomic swaps on Monero, but they're pretty hard. The user experience isn't the best. It requires technical knowledge of it. And the broader question is, okay, you've got atomic swaps and people can bridge from Monero to Bitcoin easily. Well, the problem is the moment, like mixers. You know what's happened with mixers? Like if your Bitcoins ever touched a mixer, good luck sending that to any exchange, or good luck trying to explain it to the IRS or the DOJ or whatnot, right? Because it's automatically blacklisted and you can track it forever. So the question is, are they going to have some sort of policy, or is it going to be very difficult to move your Bitcoin if it's ever interacted with a Monero atomic swap? I don't know. So I don't want to cast too many aspersions to Monero. I think that as a long-term, I think the project will continue to build out. I think that the people working on it, some of the smartest people in the industry. It's a core community-driven project. And I think in a future of very little financial freedom and full surveillance, CBDCs, etc., a currency like Monero that cannot be tracked has got a future. However, in the short to medium term, it's got all these challenges, and from a price perspective, that's obviously limiting liquidity, limiting the ability to buy it, will limit its price potential. So, yeah, in the short to medium term, not too bullish. In the longer term, I think it's still got the potential to save us from this the system which is eating us up. But and then with regards to the next video, we'll look if we can put it into one of our pipelines, or maybe something for the club.
We should cover Monero again at some point. Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Okay, what's next?
So this is from Rob 3P Wood. Interesting.
Threepwood.
Oh.
Classic English surname there. 3P Wood. Rob, you've just got a new name.
I'm sorry, mate. I need to practice my British surnames. Okay, Rob Threepwood. Is there... Sorry, Rob. I'm really sorry, Rob.
Okay.
Okay, so is there any serious competition for Chainlink as an oracle?
Yeah, this is a good question. Chainlink has been going gangbusters recently, hasn't it?
Yeah,
a lot of updates, and I think that's what a lot of people are. It's one of the first things that people spot about Chainlink is that there aren't very many competing Oracle protocols. I mean, there's things like this Band protocol, isn't there? There's
Bands, but I don't think they've really done much.
Yeah, I mean, and I think if you look at that tab on CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap, Chainlink is the leader, certainly by market cap ranking by a very long way. So there doesn't appear to be much competition for Chainlink. However, one of the projects that's launched in the last week or so and has seen a lot of traction is PYTH, PYTH. Now, I thought this was pronounced PYTH, as in Python, but apparently it's PYTH.
It's PYTH, yeah, PYTH network.
PYTH network.
Yeah, because they had an airdrop recently, and it's like it's all on the top of CMC in terms of trending, and it's a really interesting project. Funnily enough, I actually back in 2021, spoke to one of the team members on a call, and I remember thinking back then, this is a really interesting project that has a lot of potential. It's similar in the sense that it provides pricing data to blockchains, right? In that respect, from an Oracle perspective, but it has a different Chainlink in many ways. I think that for one, it's basically focused on very low latency, high frequency data coming directly from sources within TradFi and the exchanges. The likes of on the market making side in crypto, Wintermute, but then in TradFi, you're talking Jump Street, Jump Trading, Jane Street, Two Sigma, and a few other TradFi shops. They're pulling in data, not just crypto, but also other pricing data, other traditional assets. And this is utilized within DeFi protocols, and because it's much faster, they've refreshed the data. I think it's like every 400 milliseconds, so it's super, super fast.
Wow.
Compared to the likes of Chainlink, which can be an hour on Ethereum or some few seconds in Solana. So it's much faster than Chainlink in terms of providing the data. And one of the main technical points around how PYTH is different is that it has it basically, the data providers themselves, so all these large trading firms, are incentivized to provide the data. They're rewarded in terms of the fees directly, whereas within Chainlink you've got these data, you've got the node operators, which are the oracles. So, I think that PYTH network itself it's got a lot of potential. I think it's a very strong project. They built this PYTHnet, and they've got interoperability with 40 plus blockchains, and they got like 300 data providers, or like over 90 data providers who are actually providing the data. So I think it's obviously, it was started on Solana, but now it's expanded out to become multi-chain. And I think for DeFi project, something like PYTH is very important because many of the Oracle attacks we've had in the past have been because of this low latency data, right? Whereas it's coming very fast. And they've also got technical aspects in terms of like confidence intervals, in terms of the veracity of the data. So it's a really interesting project. I think we should actually pop it into as a poll vote on Coinbase Club. Yeah, because I think we should be diving into it more, because it is a bit of a rabbit hole, but I think that concerns in terms of like compared to Chainlink, I think, well, one is obviously all these TradFi giants are backing it, right? And they're the ones providing the data. So the question is, okay, if you want to ever worry about potential, if you have this view of market manipulation from the TradFi giants to implement, they can move the market, and then also in terms of the tokenomics, Chainlink has already got like half of its circulating supply out there, whereas PYTH, it's only got 15%, and it's still got to go through some heavy unlocks in terms of these
there'll
VCs.
be a lot of early investors.
There'll be a lot of early investors, but I definitely think it's an interesting project. Want to do much a deeper dive on it, but if you got the airdrop, good luck. I mean, congrats, and maybe it's worth a hodl. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I think competition for Chainlink is good, probably for Chainlink as well as the wider space. I think you need some healthy competition in crypto. So. Yeah, I think definitely a project to watch.
Yeah.
Okay, next question is from Screen Free Adventures. Interesting name. Thoughts on if crypto continues to run on a 4-year cycle after 2024's Bitcoin halving? This is an interesting one.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
So, I mean, because obviously, like, this I think is the last, if you like, really significant halving in many ways, because this is cutting the block reward down to 3.25 or something, isn't it? 3.25. So after this, well, obviously halvings have always been, decreasing exponentially. But is it right to say decreasing exponentially? They've always been decreasing.
They're going towards logarithmically approaching the 21 minute limit, so it's going to get much more insignificant. But they're always going to continue halving.
Yeah. So I mean, from this halving on, we're going to see increasingly negligible amounts of BTC hitting the market.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess that means, how interesting are these halving events going to become? How interesting are these 4-year cycles going to become? And I guess, is the halving going to matter after the next cycle?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to become increasingly less relevant. And there's a few factors to consider here. I think that when it comes to the halving, the models are, supply and demand. How does it impact on supply and demand? Okay, first of all, the question around why price usually reacts after a halving is you've got to try and separate out the actual supply and demand fundamental impacts on the market, and then people buying sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So the latter is also a large component of that. But that itself will taper out if the fundamentals eventually don't bear out in terms of the impact on price. So in terms of that, you've got the demand and supply factors. So all of these halving models have assumed demand being held constant. Right? There'll be a certain amount of demand coming into the market, hold that constant. If supply falls by half, issuance falls by half every single halving cycle, that's going to mean naturally over a few months, demand constant, supply goes down, price will go up. Of course, demand can't be held constant, right? as we get more, as Bitcoin faces more and more adoption, and eventually you get to a stage at which the new people coming and buying Bitcoin there won't be that many anymore, and then eventually demand can't be held constant. It's going to start tapering out, right, as well. And so that's on the one side, the demand angle. It won't be held constant. And then on the supply side, as you mentioned, of course, yes, as we go through different halvings, the inflation rate will approach zero every single time it goes through another halving. The impact of the move down in terms of less supply in the market, every block reward, is going to become negligible, right?
Yeah.
So it won't be that much of an impact. It won't be that felt in terms of the actual stock or flow on the market. So that's, how the stock, the flow itself will become so negligible that it won't really have much of a difference from the actual stock of Bitcoin on the market.
Yeah.
So, I think after next halving, I think next year's halving could obviously have the impact because it's still a relatively sizable halving itself, but also there's other factors in the market that's going to come in after the halving, like potential Fed pivots and things like that, that's going to impact on the price. But as we approach the 21 million limit and the halving becomes negligible and demand tapers out, then the impact of these halving events will become negligible.
Yeah. Big questions as well for the likes of, Bitcoin miners. Because as the block reward decreases, I think, the thinking goes that miners will have to rely on transaction fees.
Fees only,
for revenue. But if Bitcoin, I think I saw a statistic the other day. It's I think 70% of Bitcoin is now hodled. Is now in wallets. I think that hasn't moved for a year or more.
Yeah.
So that suggests for Bitcoin miners, if that narrative continues, transaction fees ain't going to be enough. And this, I think, is one of the things that we need to think about for Bitcoin's future. How do you incentivize miners to secure the network and process transactions?
People aren't sending around.
Yeah. So I think that's going to become something, something to keep an eye on in future. Very, very interesting. What's the next question?
The next question from Crypto Hugo 1, and he asks, is getting paid in BTC from your job a safe path to stacking, or should it be a percentage of your salary? I guess the question here, the second question being percentage of salary, I assume he means you allocate every single month to a little bit portion to Bitcoin from your salary.
Yeah, or asking if your employer is prepared to pay you in BTC.
I don't think that's likely. I don't think many employers will be like, yeah, sure.
Sure, okay.
So you just give me a Bitcoin address as well. I'm paying usually your pay, your payroll, but we'll pay a little bit to your Bitcoin.
Maybe. I think you do. It depends on individual circumstance. But if you're spending your entire salary on Bitcoin, that would suggest, I would hope, that you have another source of income, because it goes back to what we were saying earlier, doesn't it? BTC at the moment doesn't have this narrative of being a payment coin. It doesn't. It is being hodled. People are stacking sats.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends where you live as well. I guess if you live in somewhere like El Salvador, that you can pay in BTC, then that's different. But I guess if you're living in most places, I would say, I would say just allocate a proportion of your salary that you can afford into BTC every month. And that allows you to do a DCA strategy, which takes a lot of the stress out of Bitcoin investing. And then, of course, if you have excess salary left over, then you can always think about allocating some of that to BTC as well. This is the point where we say none of this is financial advice.
Yeah.
It's good to know that people are stacking.
Yeah. I guess the question, for instance, in terms of whether you can get paid in Bitcoin, there are a lot of companies that, especially if you work in crypto, that could pay you in Bitcoin. Maybe you work for an exchange, maybe you work for a crypto service provider. So if you do have the option of getting paid in Bitcoin, it is an interesting option to take because it's kind of forced saving, right? Or forced stacking. Because you basically have whatever you have for your monthly expenses, you can liquidate your Bitcoin, whatever that monthly expenses is, and what's left over is naturally Bitcoin that's stacked, right? So it's forced saving, forced stacking. That could be a great option to compel yourself to start stacking in Bitcoin if you usually have funds left over, because how it happens sometimes. If you have to think to yourself, okay, this is my Bitcoin stack, I want to buy some Bitcoin with at the end of the month. I don't know, but then you go out on a big night or it's a weekend and you've got a lot of good things going on, and then your Bitcoin, what you were going to allocate to Bitcoin doesn't end up going there.
The wife gets hold of your credit card.
Exactly. But the one other thing to consider, though, is you then have to make 100% certain that back to the point around whether you'll be able to spend with this Bitcoin, you probably, there's many things you can't spend your Bitcoin with, like rent and all this kind of stuff. So you're going to want to have a proper and effective off-ramp, fiat, fiat on-ramp, crypto off-ramp. So you want to make sure that it's going to constantly be reliable, because the last thing you want to be is a situation where you've got paid in Bitcoin and you need to pay your rent, but the exchange has halted your account, your bank's closed your bank account, and then it's like, oh gosh, what am I going to do now? So I think that either one I think are okay. It depends on how disciplined you are in deciding when to buy Bitcoin, and whether you've got a safe and effective fiat on and off ramp. In the case that you're receiving your Bitcoin, your salary in Bitcoin, and you are forced, hodling in that respect.
Yeah. Just make sure that you're keeping the vast majority of your BTC in your own wallet.
Yeah.
Okay, next question is from Selvin Silva, and they are asking, why is Coinbase treated differently from other SECs targeted by SEC? On a separate note, we need to find a different term for centralized exchange. I know it's DEX. DEX works great.
SECs targeted by SEC. I mean, that's not something you want to...
They're coming
after. What is Gary targeted?
What's he coming after now? Quite beside the point. Why is Coinbase being treated differently from other centralized exchanges targeted by the SEC? Is it being treated differently?
I don't think so necessarily. I mean, they've got a pretty rough end of the stick as well from the SEC, right? Remember, they also got sued earlier this year with regards to unregistered security offerings, and then there was a really thing about what the SEC did to them last year with their ETH staking, and they basically or their saving product, their Coinbase Earn, where they were asking the SEC constantly for feedback on is this within the framework? What do we need to be doing? They were constantly trying to engage with the SEC. SEC was just stonewalling them, not even speaking to them. And then eventually they said, okay, well we're just going to go ahead and try. And then the day they announced they want to release this, they get a letter from the SEC. Yeah. So I don't think they're necessarily getting better treatment from the SEC.
Well, unless Selvin is asking why, saying that they're being treated worse than other centralized exchanges. Maybe he feels it's unfair in that respect. I mean,
but who's getting treated more fairly than anyone really?
Kraken, everyone's getting the SEC's going after Kraken. Kraken is getting it pretty badly. Gemini seems to, Gemini's got problems of its own.
They got sued. Didn't they get sued? Didn't they get sued by the SEC as well recently?
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe they did. But was that related to Genesis, or was that related to? Oh no, or was that related to Gemini Earn?
I think it was related to Gemini Earn.
Okay.
It could be both of them. Actually, both them and Genesis were sued by the SEC at the same time.
Right. Oh yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So they're suing everything. They're firing out
Yeah.
Catching strays. Everyone's catching.
Yeah, man. You have to say, for US exchanges, it's tough because they've registered. People like Kraken and Coinbase have kind of jumped through every regulatory hoop. I mean, the amount of paperwork these guys must have to file. Gemini as well.
Even Gemini for the New York, because for their BIT license, because they are the ones that can operate in New York, and the BIT license is like one of the most complicated stuff to get, and they went through all this, and they wanted to become the one regulated exchange and all this stuff, and they're still not good enough.
Yeah. So I do have a bit of sympathy for these US exchanges. Like literally everything they do, they do everything that's asked of them, and then the SEC still comes after them, which is madness. This is regulation by enforcement, which is crazy. Anyhow, Selvin has got in a second question.
Yeah. So he's asked, can you point to a couple of good crypto-related websites, means Twitter, crypto-related accounts to follow?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to go on to Twitter and see who
you follow.
Yeah, who I'm following.
That's a good.
So, one person who comes up is Miles Deutscher.
Yeah.
I think Miles
got some good DeFi
Miles
alpha.
Has got some really good alpha. I like his tweets. He puts out
good
some
threads.
Really useful stuff. He tweeted something about some tools that he was using recently. Very, very good. Look On Chain is another one.
Yeah.
That's good alpha there.
Look on chain, whale alerts. You need to be definitely these blockchain tracking and alerts that relate to movements, big movements on chains are very important because obviously they point to something that could be going down in the market. Yeah.
Yeah. Tree of Alpha is another
it's a
good
very
one.
good one. Yeah.
That's a good account. We referenced them a few times. Who else have I been following recently? Ram Alawalia, a guy who I interviewed, was it the beginning of this year or late last year? CEO of Lumida Wealth. He is, he's a crypto guy, but he's got a good...
Wealth of knowledge in TradFi that brings it to crypto,
Yeah. Who else?
Tier 10K is a very important one to follow. So if you want breaking news in crypto as well as TradFi, this guy gets it quicker than anyone, like is on the pulse. I think he's got like a mole at the Bloomberg terminal that basically just like gets all the information before anyone else. So you got to follow him or her, whoever, and definitely put on notifications for that. Similarly, Squawkbox is another good one. News. Walter Bloomberg also. I assume the guy's that he's got a terminal of some description that gets the information very quickly.
Arthur Hayes. He's a good one to follow. His Substack is great. Yeah, his shit posts are good. CZBNB, he's been tweeting some interesting stuff recently.
Wow. Well, I don't know. Where's CZBNB? I thought there was a guy called CZ Binance or.
CZ. Yeah, I've never heard of CZBNB.
It must be one of these fake accounts. That's impersonating.
I think he got taken down, or his account got suspended when he tried to change his name.
Yeah, you can't do that. Someone else is really fun to follow is Inversebra.
Inversebra. You can't be in crypto and not follow Inversebra.
You got to follow Inversebra. Get in there.
Yeah, get me in, little shit.
Yeah, the guy literally shares like all what's going on the crazy crypto Twitter. He'll catch a screenshot and it's going to be out there. And so be careful about what you tweet. But yeah, it's hilarious. He's got some really cool tweaks there.
There's some crazy stuff that they tweet every now and again.
So then Akas Duale, it's Duili, asks, as the bull market can begin any time, which will be the next 100x cryptos? Are you glad you get that one?
Yeah, that was a good one to get, wasn't it? Short answer is we don't know. So we have to fall back on we have to fall back on some things that we can look at to try and spot 100x cryptos, and there are lots and lots of those. I mean, for a start, I would consider looking at projects that are relatively new out of the gates. Yeah. Crypto follows these cycles, and cryptos themselves tend to follow cycles as well. Yeah. So if a project has already been around for a few years, maybe saw a massive pump back in 2021 or 2017, chances of it 100xing are pretty slim. So I guess if you're looking at a project within the sort of top 50 or 60 cryptos,
market cap is very important.
Market cap,
because obviously that will impact on how likely thing is to 100x, right? I mean, so definitely not even on the top 200 market cap is likely to. At least you're much more likely to find something out of the top 10, 200 in terms of rankings that is going to 100x. But and that should be something to consider when you're putting together your portfolio. I think you probably only want to have a handful of potential 100x plays in there. There is nothing wrong with investing in a crypto with a higher market cap, which you think can still go up, but which isn't going to see massive gains. Because even if it is like a top 10 or top 20, 30, whatever crypto, it could still make you some nice gains. But 100x's are, you've got to be looking for much smaller you've got to be looking for much smaller market caps. It's a risk-reward thing as well, obviously. So you view 100x, if you are going to be 100x shitcoin prospecting, then view it as a binary outcome. View it as a coin that is either going to 100x or it's going to go to zero. And you have to be perfectly comfortable with the latter outcome because that's likely. Market cap, narratives is important as well. Exciting narratives for the next bull market. And then liquidity is also potentially important to get in and get out. Also if there's a community, there's an exciting community drive behind it, because community is very much a driver in terms of not just users if it's a project that's going to be used or blockchain that's going to be used, but also the community will help impact on the price. So
yeah.
I think that
Because crypto communities, they're the ones that primarily drive the price of these particular coins and tokens. And then when a bull market comes along, you get other newer users coming in, and they pump it even more. But if a project has a big, strong, and engaged community as well, then that can suggest future accumulation too. There's lots of things to look at, but at the end of the day, we just can't know. So as Nick says, if you are investing in a 100x, in what you think is a potential 100x crypto, you've got to be prepared for it to go all the way in the other direction as well. You've got to be prepared for it to go to absolute zero.
Just YOLO. And I think lots of people ask these questions, the 100x cryptos and the 1000x cryptos, and they expect us to come out here and say, pick this coin or that coin. But the problem is it doesn't work out. It doesn't work out like that. And also it's downside for us and downside for you. Downside for us because if we're wrong, people come out and we get brigaded in comments and all that. And if we're right, well, great, but then you can't replicate it, right? And I think that's
plus, if we're right, then obviously we pumped and dumped it. you literally can't win.
Then you are exit liquidity. But also I think that is important for you guys to be able to know what to look for and do your own research and find your own coins and tokens. And that's why we're trying to provide what we do is to give you the education and tools to be able to do this yourself. So we do have videos on how to find 100x coins with a framework of some description, which we'll leave in the description as well. And feel free to check that out at your leisure.
That's also why we started Coin Bureau Club, which is our altcoin-focused subscription service, and that's where we do videos of, in general, CBC members get to vote for what ones they want us to cover, but in general, we cover cryptos with smaller market caps in order to try and find those potential 100x's. So there's a link down there as well, if you're interested in that. Okay. Next question is Lakino Tien. Do you believe Arbitrum will achieve new all-time high in the next 2 years?
Yes, I do. I think that, it's launched recently. They airdropped a pretty new project, so it should, for sure. It launched in a bear market, the depths of bear market. So it's pretty likely that it should. And I think Arbitrum, obviously, you've got a lot of exciting things going on there as a layer 2. I think you also have it on your watch list, right?
Yep, I do. So, I do. Arbitrum Arb is one that I am watching pretty closely. Its all-time high was $8.67.
Wow. Okay.
Didn't realize it had gone back in March. That must have been just after launch.
Just after the unlock. Just after the airdrop, etc. I think, but as a project, it's got strong potential as a layer 2 for sure. Between it and Polygon, I think
they seem to be the top layer 2 contenders. Arbitrum, I know, is spending a lot of money on building out its ecosystem, so you can expect to see, and there's already quite a lot of projects building on Arbitrum. The thing I would bear in mind, and the thing that's sort of one of the main things that stopped me buying any ARB at the moment, is supply. So it's got a maximum supply of 10 billion. Currently, 1,275,000,000 of that is in circulation. So there is a lot of ARB locked up. There is a lot that's going to vest to early investors.
Exactly.
I don't know off the top of my head what the vesting cliffs, etc., look like, but there will be a lot of ARB hitting the market in the coming months and years. So that is something to bear in mind as well. But I agree with you, Nick. I think it probably can hit a new all-time high in this cycle.
Definitely go and study those vesting unlocks and look at the unlocks and take note of when there are going to be big unlocks. And there's, I think that's important for most projects that have had a large amount of funding prior. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So we've got the last question here. This is an interesting one from Matt Wahay, who's a regular his question is, guys audition for an upcoming Rambo franchise reboot. Now, I should add some context here because in case you didn't see on what has been shared on Twitter and a few other places, there was a shoot going on in Coin Bureau HQ for a new 80s exercise video. We're basically looking to diversify. We're looking to, fit Bureau. Basically, if bear markets come back and we need to, diversify the content, Guy's going to be the new fitness influence.
I mean, as you can see, like most of the work has already been done. So we were filming. This is one of the more enjoyable aspects of a Coin Bureau, of which there are many. But yeah, we were filming a new insert for our deals page. As you know, we don't generally tend to run many adverts on Coin Bureau, but we've been making some of our own. So we've got our deals page, which is obviously where we put all our deals, as the name suggests, but we like to promote it every now and again. And rather than just have an insert with me telling you about it, we thought we could do something a bit different. So, I mean, Cousin Barry recently...
he was in a rap video, yeah.
Yeah, he did a quote-unquote rap video for it, which was very good of him.
It was very good.
It took a lot of persuading to get him to do that.
Yeah,
I mean, he gets a cut of the deals. So, you know... so I decided to do one myself, and I don't know if you've ever seen The Running Man, but there's a great insert in that, Captain Freedom's workout. So check that out. So we tried to do one based on Captain Freedom's workout.
You really were dedicated, man. He even poured a cooler of water all over his head with this pool we bought, like a little pool.
There's a paddling, we've got an office paddling pool.
So guys, basically, if we don't make a return on this deals page, then we're never going to do anything. Between Cousin Barry and the 80s workout theme Rambo actor, if we're not selling on this deals page, then something's wrong. Then nothing's happening. Then pack it in, you know.
Took a lot of effort. I was genuinely...
Or we have to introduce some of those or we have to introduce some of your other relatives that have been in some of our previous non-financial advice disclaimers. We could bring in Uncle Angus or Cousin Dennis.
Cousin Dennis from Australia.
Cousin Dennis from Australia, yeah. Uncle Angus from Scotland, you know.
We'll have to bring some of those back. Yeah, I think that's what most people remember from early videos. It's me dressing up in silly costumes and telling people I'm not a financial advisor.
Those were some of the most hilarious times.
Yeah. Feels like a long time ago.
Behind the scenes, yeah.
Maybe we'll bring some of them back.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
can only imagine though what people in the next door office must have thought from what was going on here.
Yeah. Water dripping through the ceiling after. Yeah. Well, you'll have to watch the insert. Anyhow, that's about it for today. We've rambled on for a while, as ever. Nick, good to have you back.
Well, it's great, back, man. Yeah.
Well, I'm the one who's back.
You're the one who's back.
Is it good to have me back?
Yeah, it's great to be back, man. Yeah.
So we will be back. I think next week maybe it will be me and Jessica. It's time to mix the Q&A combo up. So we'll be back. Please keep sending your questions in. Please keep practicing self-custody. Not investing more than you can afford to lose. See you later.